Hello, everybody. We're back. How you doing? Welcome
Like,
to the Seekers Chronicles Paranormal
yes,
Stories.
we're
And
back.
we're
Like we
back.
never left.
Yeah. It's like, I think I sit in this seat for like week to week. It's like, I don't get out of it. I just stay
It
here.
goes so fast. I feel
Yeah,
like,
it
wow,
does.
we're here again.
Yeah. It's crazy how it just goes that fast, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I just lost my
Yep.
YouTube thing here. Hey, what's going
And
on?
the three of us did a podcast last night as well that was recorded. So we were actually right here last night, the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi
It
And
again.
was
speaking
fun.
of going fast, that was not nearly enough time for us. I was like,
No.
we
I
I
know.
know.
2 hours.
Who gives us 1 hour to talk?
Yeah.
We could do that. Like,
Yeah.
come
One
on.
of us talks an hour. Then it's got three of us. That's whole 3 hours
Anthony,
going there.
I was saying Anthony can do that without taking a breath.
I probably could. You know I
I
could.
know. I
He's
know.
seen some things, seen it.
He has seen it and done
I've
it.
seen it, done it. I've been here. I don't know.
He's been
I mean,
around. So how was your weekend, everybody?
mine was.
Good?
I spent it home. I pretty much was home all weekend, so I really didn't do much. I know Jenny did. I was actually
Yeah,
supposed to
of
be
course.
at the My Haunted Manor, the project. I was supposed to go this
Mm-hmm.
weekend. They were going to do. They actually were going to interview me because I seen something on the show at the place and I drew it and everything. But I had to, my things happen, family stuff, so I had to
It
cancel out.
happens.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll
And
get you. They'll get you.
yeah. This here, it's like this is all I got to. My Haunted Manor. That's
We
what's
had a
supposed
good
to be.
time there the week before. It was good.
Yeah, we had a good time, and so that was the week before. Kim, anything?
Nope, I
Horse
worked again all weekend. All weekend.
Jeez.
all
She's a
I
weekend.
know.
she's a hard worker. I
Yeah,
had
I
an
know.
investigation, of course.
Oh,
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah,
What happened?
shock, right? No, I had an investigation with Full Moon Paranormal, our dear friends,
Mhm. I
the
saw
half
the
in
moon
New
pictures.
went with the
York.
full moons, huh?
The half
It was
moon that I
really
am went
fun.
with the full
You're the
moon.
half moon, they're the full
Yeah,
moons.
it was actually a public investigation that we hosted, but it went
Cool.
really well. It went
Nice,
like a private in terms of things that
really.
happened. I mean, craziness. Yeah, like beds shaking, like crazy
What?
EVPs, like really. Oh yeah, the bed was like shaking against the wall. We were all like, "What is happening here?" Yeah,
The bed was
it was
shaking against
pretty
the
cool.
wall.
Of course,
Did
I
they?
checked everything. I went underneath it. I went all around it. It was nuts. Yeah.
Well, when the bed
Yeah, I
shakes
mean,
against the
bed
wall, it's usually
shaking.
in a hotel room.
What is going to cause that? Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
unless it's
right
an
There we
down.
go.
earthquake.
There we go. Right down off the rails immediately.
Hey,
Okay.
bed shaking means so it can mean other things than paranormal.
Yep.
You know, hey, we got Stay Haunted Paranormal on tonight.
Yeah. Hi,
They
everybody.
had had their
Hello,
show
hello,
last night.
hello.
I watched. I
The
watched.
Cocos, all good. All they had a
Ha-
new show. Stay
Happy
Haunted.
birthday, Chris Allgood. Happy
Yes,
birthday, Chris
Chris, happy
Allgood.
birthday. That his birthday is what, today?
Today.
Yeah, that's
Happy
cool.
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's a
You
cool
know, we got the usual suspects in the
thing.
audience, Mary Beth and stuff. So, we're gonna have a good night here.
We
Mary
love
Beth and
the
stuff.
usual suspects. We love them
We
all.
sure do. We don't mean to
Yeah,
gloss over you like that. We love you.
huh? Who did I cross
I
over
know. Mary Beth and stuff.
and stuff? Well, what do you want me to say?
Oh my Lord. I
know.
can't.
Forget about it. He's got the shirt on.
We got to reel him in
Yeah,
again. Reel
forget
him in.
about it. Hey, we gotta do something tonight. Hey, so
We
listen,
we gotta watch you.
we have a great guest on tonight,
We
and
do.
this is
Yeah.
an easy one for me to actually announce, but we're going to still give it to Jenny because somewhere along the line I could probably screw up her name somewhere. I screw up everybody's name, so it's the easiest name in the world, but I could find a way to screw it up. So
Yep.
Jenny, you
Take
want
it
to have the
away.
honors? Huh? Go ahead.
Please, everybody, give a warm welcome to Ms. Kelly Miller.
Hey, Kelly.
Woo!
Thanks.
How you
Thank
you
so much for
letting me join you tonight. I'm so excited.
I'm so
We're
happy you're
thrilled.
here.
Yeah,
You know,
me too. Me too.
so happy.
I was so thrilled when I saw you in Hanover and you mentioned about it. I'm like, that is amazing. And what a cool place that was.
Yeah, Hanover was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. You know,
And
Yeah.
we have since had guests on from there.
Oh, cool.
And
yeah.
it's just been like
Steve
guest
was on,
after guest.
and
Steve was there.
oh boy,
Tiffany. And
Stephanie.
then last week
I'm calling it
we
John.
had
Got-
and we had last week we had the Houlihan's on.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah.
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 Well, and there were great speakers like that. That place, Steve just has a gem with that place as far as the layout and the theater for people to speak. It was just a beautiful place. So if anyone hasn't been to the Hanover Paracon in Hanover, Virginia, check it out next year. He does a really, really great job. And Steve is just going to sing his praises for a second. He's a dear friend, but he is a heck of an organizer. Like his events, it's not like, you go, all know, like you go to some events and it's kind of a little chaotic or confusing. And he's super fun and all the events are really great, but he's very well organized and that makes everything flow so nicely. So, and it's a really
I was Lourdes all weekend with him. He was calling me Lourdes all weekend because I went down there with Ron Jacobetti, and Lourdes wasn't there, so he kept on calling me Lourdes. So
well,
hey, I used to say I showed her picture on the thing. I showed her the picture and I'm like, yeah, I'm Lourdes. I just let myself go a little bit.
a little,
just a little bit,
just a little. Oh my dear.
Yeah, very similar.
And so next year, if anybody's interested, the last weekend in January, it's like, I think the 31st.
Yes,
the Hanover
definitely.
Paracon.
Yes.
Well, we're going to see Kelly in Gettysburg.
We are.
Yeah. She's in Gettysburg. She's a regular in Gettysburg. She's always the one dressing up in the Christmas stuff. I mean, the Christmas. I don't know about this year. No.
I'm a sucker for a good theme. If it's a good theme, sign me up all day. But yeah, I've helped since day one of the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, and it's just an amazing event. Such an amazing group of paranormal family members that come from all over just for that particular event. We just try to extend it longer and longer and longer each year. So stay there day.
I'm waiting for you guys to get to Monday. It starts on Thursday because it's right into Sunday. I mean, I'm waiting to start on Monday the whole week and then the weekend, and you guys got good stuff going on there, so that's great.
Everything's super neat, and they've tried to include more and more family friendly things. So, and it's also nice because it's one price for a whole weekend. So you can also in Gettysburg and come back. So
in 2 weeks we're having Pam and Steve on the show.
Oh, great, good.
Yeah, so we got them up here too. Nobody. I mean, I go up to everybody. You're on the show. Sign.
Hey, sign here.
Yeah,
sign here. Hey,
sign here.
You got a choice.
And
you're on the show. You're on the show.
Is there a choice?
I make a deal you can't refuse.
Folded arms and there's no choice.
No. When he pulls out the folded arms, it's over.
Yes, that's when you know it's serious.
But Kelly, I didn't have to do that with Kelly. She's just like, yes, okay.
She's awesome.
That was awesome.
And she's a sucker for a good theme because I know what you do for a living. So that contributes to that. Does a little bit, that enthusiasm. Tell everybody what you do.
Yeah. Well, for my own business, I was born a psychic medium. So that's what I have been doing. I do different sorts of holistic healing. I've had different holistic healing spaces. And over the years, I didn't know, I'm here in central Pennsylvania, so I didn't know how open-minded, it kind of shift from community to community around here. I didn't know how open-minded everybody would be, but I've been public over 20 some years and been this way my whole life. And I have the most amazing group of clients and friends and paranormal family just because I was, able to share my true self with everybody. And hopefully bring some calm, comfort, and closure, which is part of what I always aim for with my clients. And so, yeah, I mean, I really enjoy being able to assist, whether it's a private case, because I do help in the paranormal sector of things, or whether it's a client reading. But I tried to offer all these different modes of holistic healing as well, and people kept coming for readings. So you have to shift in the direction that we're sent, So
awesome.
I've been very thankful and just gotten to meet the most amazing people. Before that, I taught kindergarten for 17 years. That's the main theme, probably part even more so than what I do now. And now I have a very human job that I won't say on here, but it's a very common human job.
Okay.
In addition to my own business.
I mean, a successful woman, we can't be happier about that.
I know you can.
Yeah.
I know you can't always talk about your business. Your business is not public. You know what I'm saying? Keep your business to yourself.
Oh my God.
Well, my business is through my clients and readings, but as far as like my very human job, it's doing a lot of peopling in my human job. And whereas I used to really enjoy that with the kids, I know because the three of you are so energy sensitive that now peopling is very tiresome. So to, people all day, I kind of have to designate my energy in different ways thereafter, whether it's for, client appointments, which I do mostly online. Over COVID time, I shifted most of my client appointments to online. So you kind of have to designate your energy now. I think a little more so than perhaps in the past, but I'm also old now too. So, working 3 and 4 human jobs your whole life, you just get kind of, right now the world's tough energy wise. So, but Ron.
I'm sure.
Oh,
Yes.
Forget about it.
Oh.
Well, I love the fact that you actually designate it as a human job. Thank you for designating it as like a human job versus like our other metaphysical kind of odd jobs, because it's totally different. And it's totally, you have to like be in a completely different space when you're with like normies almost, not normies, but like the people who aren't necessarily as aware, because they're literally just throwing stuff left and right. They don't know they're doing it. They just don't know yet. Yeah. So it is hard as a sensitive. I don't know if I myself am a medium too, so I'm really happy to have you on, Kelly, to talk more about the psychic medium side of this.
I'm happy for you guys. I'm so happy for Kimm tonight because we don't have a lot
Kimm,
of medium.
I'm so happy for you.
I'm so happy for Kimm.
So happy for Kimm. She got one of us.
One of us.
It's such beautiful vibes, because I think some people, and I'm sure you all see it, and Kimm, like you feel it around whomever you're around. Some people, everybody who reads is different, reads in a different way. And the way I look at it is some people are very open to others who read, because like in my whole life, I'm like, oh my God, that happens to you too. How do you feel when that happens? Like, oh my gosh, like, isn't it overwhelming? And you have a tribe then. Not everybody looks at it that way. So I really appreciate the vibe that you all have and the inclusive feeling, because that's the main purpose for me in this field, I believe, is like educating other people and forming those bonds and helping. And I sense that you all feel the same way. So that's really refreshing.
You get your little group of people in the field that you're all like-minded and all are happy for each other, and you stick with them. You might bring more people in here and there, but you always have that, other stuff going on. But even just be happy with the people you're with. Yeah. And that's what, I mean, once I started, that's Lourdes. Once I started, going to Paracons and started opening up, saying, wow, there's people. I walked into my first Paracon, really, I think it was the second one, the New Jersey Para-Unity. I walked in there, and up to that point, I wasn't able to talk. I had people I was talking to and stuff, but when I walked in there, I was like, a weight came off my chest, and I got to talk to people that I talked to, and like, they don't look at you with the side eye, and when you're telling people your story, and they like that twisted face and stuff, and like,
They're like,
but that's what you get. But when I went to started with Paracon, I said, these are my people. I came back. I felt like a weight came. I mean, all those years I had to hide it. All of a sudden, I was like, I'm exposed.
Yeah.
It was really good. So you're right with that. With the
You
people.
almost like breathe a sigh of relief, I think. Like I get around those people who are so used to just me and, so inclusive. And you just go like, like I can finally relax. Like I'm finally at home for the next several days with everybody. And I think it's so beautiful. I just, and I think energy doesn't ever lie. And I think those people who maybe, because this is just my own personal belief, but from energy work perspective, I think you have to work through your own shadow stuff. And so some people don't always like to do that because no one really likes to do that. It's hard and it feels chaotic and it feels uncomfortable. So sometimes it's a little easier or smoother times of life to be able to do that. But I think when you're around other people, it's like their energy doesn't lie. So if those people are kind of aligned with you and supportive and have worked through stuff, you kind of find that common bond. And then, it's just like the same people I always look forward to seeing when I'm at different events. It's just,
it's like, you get to see, and after a while you become friendly too, friends and, like us, we became like family, the three of us. We are family. Us, Ron Lourdes, Rich and Michelle, we're like family now. Like, it's the six of us. Well, we have more people that came with us and, but it was originally us. And then we brought more people and were like-minded, but it was like, and because we're all different groups, we're all different teams, and we're all different places and stuff like that, And, you find your group and that's it. And I see in comment a tribe of weirdos. We're not the weirdos.
I love that. That's great. Tribe of weirdos.
We're not the weirdos. Everybody else is. We're just normal.
Say I'm a weirdo. I'm a weirdo.
I've been called worse than that.
No, I'm pretty strange. I don't know. I'm pretty strange.
She is.
But I'm okay with
it.
Right. Yeah.
So Kelly,
they're both.
I know you said you're born. You're born with the abilities and stuff like that. But when did you actually start being able to use them, or aware that you can use it?
That's what I was going to ask next, Anthony. You took the words right out of my mouth.
No. Well, my mom jokes that I started like full paragraphs at 8 months old and I haven't shut up since. So that's what my mom always tells me. And so I would, kind of I receive message by seeing, hearing, and receiving message intuitively. So like pictures, almost like a movie reel in certain respects, mainly as far as readings for clients, not necessarily. And I'm in haunted locations or helping paranormal teams. Again, it's a little different process, but that way. And my mom has abilities. My grandmother who has passed, she has abilities. My two of my fairy godmothers, I call them, they had abilities. My sister has abilities, but when it comes to animals, people, she's not as much on the people side of things. So I think I just have always, I know I've always been this way, and I don't know any other way, but I think as far as my mom noticing, she noticed right away. But I've written 2 children's books, and one is called Invisible Billy, about my imaginary friend that I had growing up. And so I try to, especially when I was teaching school, I never took what I did as my business into school, but the kids know you're open-minded. And so they'll tell you, they'll come up to my desk and tell me, all kinds of things. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'll play stupid. They'll be like, but you already knew that. Yes, I did. You told me as a 5-year-old, so yeah, I feel like I've always been this way, but I think my mom noticed first when I was little. The first conscious experience I remember having was about more on the psychic side of things than the medium side, but that was probably 5, 6, 7 when I consciously remember.
Okay. You said you taught kindergarten. You taught kindergarten.
Go ahead, Anthony. What was that?
You said you taught kindergarten. Did you come across any of the kids that are coming up with they're starting being aware of their abilities?
Yeah, actually the year that I retired, my last year was the year after. I taught a year after COVID before I was done. So it was the year after COVID. And the last year I had a parent of a student the student came to me and she was all frazzled and she was teeny tiny and telling me about some of the things that she was seeing in her room at night. And she just felt comfortable to tell me about it. So we talked about it a little bit. Again, keeping things very separate. I just reached out to the parent and I said, I'm hearing about these experiences at home. I just wanted to make you aware that this is what she shared with me in case, there's some fear in the middle of the night. And the mom said, as has happened a few times over my course of teaching, but the mom said, I Googled you. Can I meet with you and ask you questions? And I said, yeah, that's fine.
Ooh.
So I've helped a lot of kid clients over the years. And she was just one that we kind of talked about some things that she could do for her own self to feel safe in her own space and reset her energy and the energy around her, even at 5. And
that's great.
I value their trust, and I was thankful that parent was so open-minded. But if anything else, I wanted her to feel safe at night, no matter why she told me or how that was. But yeah, we have had a lot of experiences like that teaching because they just know, like they're just open and they just know.
Right.
Kim, I cut you off. I'm sorry, Kim. Kim, I cut you off. If you want to, you about to say something.
I don't know what I was going to say, but Adam is asking, can you feel things that you see on TV?
Yeah, I don't watch the news generally. I don't watch a lot of news. I like to be informed, but I don't watch a lot of like traumatic things. It's funny because my best friend will travel with me to events and she, we'll watch something on TV and I'm like, okay, I need a buffer show before bed, like something like mindless and funny because it's just too intense. And I also find like if it's something that's kind of mysterious in nature, or like I've helped with some police kind of like FBI type work. And if it's too intense in those ways, it really is disruptive to me in rest and sleep. And because human jobs are exhausting, I'm like, I can't get too involved in this. I have to kind of give myself time to separate a little bit. And so I generally watch very lighthearted things. I don't watch horror movies unless I'm like, if a group of friends wants to watch it or something, that's fine. But I don't generally pick them to watch them. I've seen scarier things in real life, so I just don't generally watch them. But I do feel from TV. And I also feel from like the internet web videos. Like it seems very just, kind of mindless to scroll sometimes. And I think that's very detrimental to people in so many ways. But like your subconscious is picking up on all of that stuff, whether or not you're even looking at it or trying to look at it. Yep. And so you're physically giving your energy into whatever that is simply by scrolling. And so I've been trying to take a bigger break from those things just because the world is what it is right now. So yeah, I think people who are sensitive feel a lot for sure. Mm-hmm.
My confusion is like everybody's obsession right now with like true crime, and I'm like, why would you ever want to like dive into that? I'm like that's real. Like those like so I don't get it. I don't know if people are like trying to feel something from it, or like there's this weird curiosity about it that more people are tapping into and starting to get like feelies from it maybe. Yeah. But I can't. I mean, there's no way I could. It's not necessary for me. Yeah. Yeah.
No, and those are real.
Right.
Yeah. And they're murder shows. Those aren't like, murder shows.
Show
those
is like
are
one
real.
thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it.
I guess I'm the weird ones. I like all that stuff. I like horror movies. I like all that stuff.
I don't think you're alone.
True crimes.
No, you're not alone for sure. No,
I know I'm not alone. Because my wife doesn't watch any of that either. So she's like, you watch it? No, I'm not watching that. It's like,
but you're right. You're right, Kelly. It's like, and that's why they call it doom scrolling, because it's like you're just receiving all that stuff without even realizing it. And it builds up in you without you realizing it.
Yeah. And my best friend who travels with me, she has like a degree in forensic science. Like this was her realm of things. So she's into the true crime, everything. And then, I'm kind of like the buzzkill, like I weigh in and I'm like, I just like, not only are these things real, I think, and I may upset some of your viewers by what I'm going to say about true crime. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. This is just my advance notice. But So in assisting with some of these crime cases at times, and meeting with families who've lost people and are searching for answers, the common consensus that I've received from a lot of spirit interaction during those times are that since they've passed, there may be a lot of questions surrounding their passing. Sometimes they give some insights into them, sometimes they don't. But the main key point that I've taken away from most of those experiences is that in spirit form, we often say it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter because we've already transitioned to that other side. Would those answering those questions give our family closure? Maybe we can help with that. Maybe we're just choosing, because we've evolved so much in our passing, that it doesn't matter. And that's not easy for us as humans to hear, or their families, or their, friends, or even law enforcement. That's not easy to hear. But at the same time, I really try to look at it from that perspective of we're trying to find peace, and sometimes spirit's just reassuring their family that they're peaceful, and some of those questions don't matter. So I kind of look at true crime things that way too. And hoping for peace of those places and people versus, I will never provoke or try to draw answers out. If spirit's not up for, providing those things, A-okay with me. So it's just something I don't really get the true crime thing either, but that's because I see it from the side that you all see it. So
I see. Like we project onto spirits. Is that what you're saying? Like we project our need to know, our need to.
Yeah, and I get it. Like that, one of the hardest times was I met with his mother, whose son was older and disappeared, and so he was found, but there were questions about his passing, and I kept telling her, and I felt for her, but I said, he just keeps telling me, Mom, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Mom. Like these questions she had, the things she wanted to figure out, the things she wanted to solve, like. He gave some information, but the questions that kept coming, he was like, it doesn't matter, because this is already the outcome. And I just want you to know that I'm okay, and that things will work themselves out, and these answers will come, and it doesn't matter. Even if it's not on the timeline, we all expect. That's what I keep pointing to, being open to whatever you're meant to receive, even if it's not what you expect. So I think true crime is a little bit interesting, because I think there's a lot more psychology that goes behind that, and our natural inquisitive nature, and we want to know things and we want to figure things out, and so that's great to a degree, but I feel like there's also this respect of spirit and what they're trying to teach us in this experience that's maybe I have to pump the brakes a little bit.
It's lost a bit.
I've done investigations where kids commit suicide and stuff, and the parents want to try, and the answers we got, I don't think the parents wanted to hear why they did it. And it got to do with what the parents were doing to them or not, and sometimes it's hard, to tell them this is why. And so you try to do it your best you can, but you get sad at, it's like, you don't know what to expect, because then they break down and closure, and now they got to feel more guilty. So you try to give them whatever you can, and some things you hold back because you don't want them to feel worse than they would, because really at this point it doesn't matter. The child's never going to come back, so why give any more guilt to the family? You want to give them closure, but when you can't give them closure and you're just going to give them more pain, you got to watch what you say and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I think if it's between, equipment or Kimm, I'm sure you can relate. You don't always like what you see. You don't always like what you hear, what you pick up about something. You don't always feel like, okay, well, not only is, this something that maybe I don't, I'd have to tactfully word to relay, or maybe this is just something that I'm not sure of the connection and the meaning right now, but that doesn't mean it's any less relevant. And so even though you don't like what you hear, I always tell my clients, I'm going to be unfiltered with you. I'm going to relay exactly what I hear and see and what it sounds like. And then we can talk about what it means, but I'm going to share with you everything. And not everybody, I've had instances where there have been questions about a passing, and then I share what comes through, and they're like, oh, well, oh, that couldn't have happened. They didn't partake in those sorts of things. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then later on, they find out that that is something that happened. So
Mm-hmm.
my job is to relay what spirit's saying, or what I'm picking up from an environment, or what I'm seeing, and I believe that no matter how we absorb that and how we relay it, at the same time, it has relevance. So even if it's not right now, it could be later.
Yeah.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's equally as important for sure. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
But,
sure. For sure. I
but
had my first reading ever last year, and I was like, what? No. And, and I was just that stereotypical person, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And sure enough,
Just give
sure
it
enough,
time.
later
Yeah.
on, it was like, oh my gosh, and it's not that I wasn't open to her being
Sure.
right. I just was like, what? No,
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, maybe I just don't know. And sure enough, she was right about everything.
Mhm.
So yeah, you do. You have to keep an open mind, even if you're thinking absolutely no way.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's so much symbology behind everything, the way people read and what you see as a reader, those who do have sensitivities, you can see one symbol that means something to you. That's often how those psychic dictionaries are formed, but that same symbol may mean something different to somebody else, because that's how that's giving that meaning. So I think I always say, like, when you're experimenting with different types of reading, I don't use like tarot cards or tea leaves or anything like that, but I have dear friends that I trust who do. So I always say, like, okay, well, if you're new to readings, try different people, try different methods, see what you're most comfortable with, see what you're most drawn to, see what you're most interested in, and what feels good. Because, like, this is how I relate it. Like, if you go to a creepy massage place, you're not going to go back there. You feel uncomfortable.
No.
So it's kind of like that with the reading. You have to be comfortable with someone's intention and their energy, because you're letting them into your space and they have no right to know what they know.
Sure.
So you have to be comfortable with that.
Right.
And
it's intensely private, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
When so my experience with that, like, because you're totally right about the symbolism, like last time this came up, it meant this, and you feel into it. And for me, if I say it and it's not correct, they'll keep giving it to me. They're like, no, you just keep giving it to me. And then I'm just like, oh, no, hold on. There's more to this than what I've already said. But I love that about them, because sometimes they're relentless about, if I'm not saying it in the way that they mean it, or that the message really needs to come across, they'll still give it to me. So I love that. I also have a really funny, terrible reader story, not for myself. It's my mother. My mother is a terrible sitter. She literally just went, my grandma passed this year, and she went to, like, no joke, she went to maybe like 5 psychics and mediums. And because what she wanted the date of the passing of my grandmother. And she would ask me, and I would tell her, I can't, I'm not going to do that, really. I don't do predictive stuff really for the sign, but you can get a general sense sometimes. And she wouldn't get the answer she wanted. So she kept going back to this person, to that person, to this person. I was just telling her to stop, because, it's not a perfect science, right? We're communicating with the ethers. It's information coming in, and it changes. So even if you have one reading, especially if you're doing future stuff, like you do one reading, well, maybe grandma was going to pass in 2 weeks, but then grandma said, not 2 weeks. And grandma changes her mind.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So perfect science, but oh my God, my mother is a terrible sitter, and she was a terrible sitter before she had me. I didn't even know she went to mediums and psychics until I came out to her. But yeah.
That's true. And I always tell people too, like, our free will as a human trumps whatever comes through in a reading. So, I say I read as if everything carries on and continues the way that it is. If you go home tonight and you said, I quit my job tomorrow, that's fine. But then you have changed and altered the scheme of everything else following that decision. So our human free will impacts that. And that's the same thing with lottery numbers. It's the same thing with, predicted dates for particular things. Everyone's free will weighs into that, whether they're touching the lottery balls as they're drawing them, or whether their soul is deciding, hey, I'm going to hang on 2 more months. That's a them thing. So I mean, it really does. It's a very valid point for sure. Yeah, right. Sometimes
that's a great point. Yeah, right. That's a great point.
It was a little out
Kelly,
of point.
Kelly, what's your, I'm going to ask you a non-medium question since
Sure.
I'm not one. What's your favorite part of investigating when you're not reading? Like, I know you're also an investigator. Yeah.
It's a completely different process. Like I said,
right.
When it's with paranormal teams, like my favorite investigations are private ones. My favorite, most poignant memories from investigations are private investigations where sometimes I go in first to kind of feel the environment and let the paranormal team kind of know what they're walking into. Other times they'll kind of call me in when they've done other things and they're ready, for me to come in too and assist. But I think it's just a unique and different thing completely because you're dealing with a different vibrational energy than like our loved ones. Sure. It's just a much lower, closer to our plane energy. And so that can sometimes make us more physically uncomfortable for those others who investigate too. My favorite part of the investigation, I would say, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. But I think my favorite part is the initial walkthrough for me, because there are times that I've gone into places with people or even public events and I'm walking through. I remember, and Anthony, Flip. So Jennie, you too. So I was walking with Flip. We went to an event and we were walking through this location and I kept looking at him because he was very familiar with the location. I had not been there. And I'm like, what did you do to me? What did you break? Like, I'm going to need so many breaks in this place. The energy was just like, and it gives me that, okay, this is what I'm in for this evening. Like, okay. And then it gives me kind of a heads up with what's happening. There were certain parts of the location that I was like, you may I want you to take another person with you in that part. Don't go in, so there just kind of gives you a little bit of a heads up, but that initial feeling out that energy, I think, is so impactful. And also with that said, we're so extrasensory. So like literally sitting, listening, like not the first little bit that we're in a place, just quiet and listening, because I think so much can be so forward. We just have to be so receptive. And I think that's really hard to do because we all get in there and we want to be super excited and, set up everything right away. And in the meantime, I'm like, let's take photos before we enter the room. Let's just go in with a, peace of mind. Let's just sit for 3 to 5 minutes in the dark, in the silence, and see what we hear. So, I think that initial feeling of the environment is my favorite part for sure. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you would so be part of our crew.
I'd love that. I actually talked to Ron about this. We're teaming up for an event coming up soon, so I can't wait to see them.
I saw that. Yeah. We're gonna have to tell everyone about that at the end for sure when we when we do our thing at the end.
So, and technology's fun. But my own energy messes up technology. I don't own a lot of technology because I like drain batteries and like freeze light bulbs and stuff. I just don't use a lot of like when I investigate, I like the old school methods of investigation. So I'm big on like really true, candle flames, baby powder, balloons, like feathers. Like
I love it. Scooby-Doo stuff. I love it. It's like
I love that. Really, really old school stuff.
Flower on the ground.
Yeah. Mary Beth, I'm in central Pennsylvania, but I travel quite frequently for any sort of event. But I do like the tech stuff. I had talked to my friend Josh Bender, and he is Deadlight. He's the builder and creator of Deadlight. And I told him, I was like, I need something my own energy can't mess up. And he was like, I gotcha. So he created a special thing just for me that I can, it's a series of lights. And he was like, I made you all different colors because I know you want as many colors as possible. It's like,
of course we do.
So, yeah. So,
yes, I do.
So it's kind of like a sensor that I can't mess up. And he promises me I can't mess it up. So I'm very thankful. So just like some of the equipment's really cool, but to me, the most important part of that is the validation between what you pick up and what the equipment often confirms. So
Oh
I
my
think that's
gosh.
when you have that like balance, you know what I mean? Like the equipment
Yeah.
is what you're sensing and you're validating what the equipment's getting. I think that's
Mhm.
when that happens.
Yeah. You mentioned
You
before,
sound
it's like,
just like Kimm.
yeah.
Aw.
I know. I'm literally like, are me? Like these are exactly.
carries
Yeah, I know.
your
You guys are like a
messenger
mirror.
everywhere.
We're new besties now, Kim.
Yeah.
That's just the way to go.
New besties.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You are
when
the
I go to a
same.
location, I start outside for that exact reason. I want to be outside. I want to be alone. I don't want to be in the house where everybody's going crazy. And I read it from outside, basically, where I can get a feel for the land. And but I'll also get hits on like what rooms are active. So I'll get information about that. But yeah, I start alone too, listening. It's recorded, but yeah, I agree. That's exactly where I start too.
Yeah. And Kim, I wanted to address something not to jump back, but I wanted to address something you said, and you just mentioned about it. And it made me think, because in an investigation type of perspective, this happens quite often, where you're saying, which happens to me too, like if you're not quite getting what they're saying, spirit or universe is like, no, this, you're not hearing me, this, and you kind of have to decode what it might mean because you hear it over and over again. But you can get that in investigations too. Like there have been times where I'm still like, I am seeing this. There was an investigation of a location. It was a historic location in Maryland. And I went along with a group, and I'm there. I'm like, I just keep seeing these people walking in rows. Like I just see these people walking in rows. Like they're showing me their lines along this field over and over and over again. I kept getting distracted by these people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what this means. Well, not until halfway through the investigation did one of the historians come by. And I was like, can you please share with me, like, what happened right here with these people? And he was like, oh, that's where they all went to work every day. So they walked that same path between there and their homes. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I didn't know. The team didn't know. There wasn't anything displayed there, but you hear it over and over again. And that also plays into being a human, because people get in these like cyclic behaviors. And until you learn what that's actually supposed to mean, or you have like stupid relationship after stupid relationship after stupid relationship, and until you learn that lesson or what you're supposed to get out of that, you keep repeating it. So I think that's a very human kind of analogy almost to what we experience from spirit. But I thought that was really important what you said, because it does happen all the time in different ways.
Yeah. You got to do the work.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you do have to do the work. Nobody wants to do the work, but it pays off after it's done. It feels a lot better when it's done.
Yeah, and then you're not in the rat race. You're not continuously walking up and down anymore. You're on to newer and brighter and better things once you work through those patterns. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
There you go.
Totally agree.
Love it.
It's like,
See, we get
it's like the girl show. I'm just sitting here, well, listen to everybody else now.
Sorry, Anthony. Sorry.
Well, it's so funny you say that, Kelly, too, is because also when I go into the locations, it's like an immersive experience sometimes, not all the time, but it's like an immersive experience. And people are always asking like, oh, how are you doing this? And it's like, well, I use a lot of different of the abilities. You're using the psychism, you're using remote viewing, you're using mediumship, because I'm sure you do too, but I have spirits who may come to me and communicate to me about the location. They're not stuck there or anything, but they're coming through because I invite them to tell me about this place. What's so special about this place? So it's using all of those different, and I know totally what you're talking about when you're seeing something and you're like, I don't know what this is, like, but it's happening over and over. And I love if you have a historian available, because it's like having, so I'll also say kind of like, my location is my sitter, whether I'm doing an investigation or, private investigation or public investigation, whatever. That location is your mediumship sitter, basically. But your sitter is able to give you like immediate evidence response. They say no, yes, maybe. So there you get like the whole story as it's unfolding. But when you're at a location, you don't really have somebody there usually who's like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know what you're seeing. I know what you're talking about. So I've ended up going a lot into the history books to help me. But when you can have a historian on site like that, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's really great.
We've had investigations where that worked really well, having a historian right with us. Like amazing. I agree. Sorry.
And I like to know as little about a location as possible before going, which I'm sure, you're the same way. I like to,
Me too.
I do a little bit, some remote viewing too, Kim, if I'm going to a place that I'm getting an uncomfortable vibe right away, I'll kind of do a little bit of remote. So I kind of have heads up about what I'm getting into. But I find that I just, I like to know as little as possible in general about a place.
Yeah.
The main places I do those sorts of things are for private homes, private investigations. But it is true because you just kind of like, you can feel it and you can sense it, and then you get there, and then you have to give yourself some time to decompress or center. And I think too, I help with the teen paranormal camp every year from SOS Paranormal, where they invite teens who are like 10 to 17 years of age. And we teach them about the basics of, being a sensitive, using the equipment, the morals and ethics of investigating. They get to meet some pair of celebrities. They get to go to a different place each day of the week for a whole week in the summer here in Pennsylvania, all over the center and eastern part of the state. And they get to go to a lot of places during that week that are bucket list places for people who are even seasoned investigators. So if anybody, quick plug for that, because that's coming up in June.
Please.
Anybody who's interested, has a teen that may be interested, it's a flat rate for the week. And it includes most of their travel, excluding getting them to and from the home base, which is in Schuylkill County. And you can find info on that at SOS Paranormal on Facebook. So Jody Nettles runs the camp. She does an amazing job, and every year she asks me to come back, and I'm very thankful because that age group is so important. And so making sure that you have a support system if you're going through that kind of blossoming and opening up, and then you're interested in the paranormal, it's good to have kind of an outlet for that and people to support you. So
I think that's fantastic, because I looked into it a couple of years ago, and I see it, and Ernie's involved with it and everything else too. So so I thought that's very, very good for the teens and stuff.
That's amazing. We need more of that. More.
I wish I had the time. I would come out and help you guys out.
Yeah, we do, and they get to go to such cool places. I mean, they're going to Pam and Steve's to the Hoover House in Waynesboro. We take them to Pennhurst for a day. We take them to Selma Mansion in Norristown. We go to
love Selma.
Different times we went to sometimes we'll go to Muhammad Ali's training camp, which is in Schuylkill County. Sometimes we'll go to this year we're going to Haunted Elks Club, which is in Schuylkill County. It's an amazing place. I've been there several times.
Oh, cool.
But just cool places where they get to practice with the equipment. They get to practice communicating. They get to practice their sensitivity in a safe space and have the support of adults. And adults need that support. Like we need our community and our family members to feel like
they do
good. Yeah. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful program. And it gives the kids a lot of opportunities that otherwise they wouldn't really get to, like I said, there are certain places as seasoned investigators we don't always get to go. So it's kind of cool that they're invited to go through during.
And then you get to hear their thoughts, and maybe you can learn from them too. Because I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer. I've been, we all been doing this a long time. None of us are experts. We know what we're doing, and we do what we're going to do. I think Kim's going, but
I haven't been doing it for a very long time. But
Kim's new.
But we're all open to learn from anybody. The person could be just in it for a year. The person could be in it for 30 years, 40 years. You can learn from anybody. And the new people coming in. Because I was a foreman for years. I was an electrician in the city. And I might get an apprentice in that sees something different than everybody else. And I would say, let's try this kid's way. And the guys there for like X amount of years. I found out sometimes those kids come up with a faster way because they're coming in with a new vision. There's no contamination there. They're coming with a new vision. And you go with what they say. Or you just try it. Give them a chance. And then you try it. They look at you and they're like, and they're like, wow, and they feel good because to somebody that's been in the field for a long, long time, and giving them a chance. So I think that's great. That's a great camp.
Yeah,
We have
I
thanks.
wish I could be involved with it if I had the time.
Yeah. Oh.
we have a good
Do
question.
they have to be in PA?
They don't.
yeah.
They just
Do they
have to
be-
meet. Yeah, they don't have
They
to,
have to get there.
be in PA. Yeah, they have to get to the home base kind of where they leave from each day. But depending if it's close enough, like the locations in Eastern PA, Jersey people could attend, probably Delaware, Maryland. It just depends on where they're located. So
Yeah.
they could even meet up for a day or something too.
That's
And
cool.
Jody's great about being flexible. She wants to invite as many people as possible, just to give the kids, like,
Yeah,
they
I
form
really
great
hear
friendships
that
over
because-
the week, you know?
Yeah.
It's so good. And the only reason why I'm asking is because there are a few youngsters that we do have coming to our public investigations with the Morris County Park
Oh
Commission
yes.
that I
Cool.
think a few of them would be
Oh yeah.
very interested and open to doing something like that.
And they're
So
so
I will
good.
actually share
They're
that
so
with them.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're so good.
These
They're
kids are
yeah,
so
we love
good.
them.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
Yeah.
young, like young though.
yeah.
They might
Oh,
be
that-
too young, like
Yeah.
10 or 11.
Well, no,
Yep.
there's a few teenagers too that come. So
Oh,
I was
yeah.
thinking
sure.
of
Eli.
We have this
Yeah.
one girl came. She's so into it that she actually made her father bring her after a soccer game. She's still in her soccer uniform
Yeah.
with all the stuff.
So
She came in her
cute.
soccer uniform, and she comes to almost everything we do in Morristown. It's
Yeah.
awesome, really.
And she gets great results. It's so funny. I feel like the spirits
Yeah.
love her because she's
We're
such a
learning from
beautiful
her.
girl, you know. So like
Oh,
she brings them out. We had a good question I don't want to miss
Okay.
about for you two from Mary Beth. Question for Kelly and Kimm: how far away can you communicate with spirits? Does distance matter?
Go for it, Kelly.
well, I think it depends on what the goal is. I think it's all up to spirit willingness and to communicate. And that's like in a private reading to a loved one, or that's in a public investigation at a historic location. It's all in what spirit wants to relay and how they want to relay. As far as the distance, I mean, I believe our loved ones are around us all the time. So one might not take that as a lot of distance. On the other side, and the way I look at things, are on a different plane. So to me, that is very much of a distance. When I'm helping with, the investigations, or the crime things and that kind of thing, I don't have to be there. Those locations I do remote view. So miles don't really matter as far as energy flows. To me, it's all a wavelength. So if you can tune into the wavelength of whatever energy you're trying to communicate with, it's just tuning into that radio frequency, right, Ron and Lourdes? So I think,
yeah.
That's just like distance
No radio.
Distance doesn't normally,
It's not a radio.
No,
Don't
Ron's
do
like,
the radio.
not a radio.
It's
not
a
radio.
method.
No, I'm
That's
just
right.
teasing you,
That's
Kelly.
right. What do you
No,
think,
but
Kim?
we know what you meant.
Well, it's almost like you read my typed response, because I did type a response. I said, for me, Mary Beth, there's no distance. It would really depend for me if they are willing and open to communicate. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely same exact experience. Totally.
No.
Kim, I'm so happy for you tonight, Kim. She's like, yes.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm typing the same responses. This is so good.
Well, and I think too, like people say, which when you kind of nodded your head, Kim, I think you were reading my mind when Anthony, when you said like, there's no professional people. And that's kind of to me that when people talk about that, no offense, anyone, but I kind of roll my eyes, because I think to myself, I don't consider people necessarily professionals, but there are trusted, seasoned, very knowledgeable people in all of the areas of the metaphysical and paranormal communities. And I feel that there's relevancy in that experience. And there's, in the genuine nature of people and the dedication and the true desire to try to learn more. I think there are definitely very legitimate people in the paranormal, and it's just about finding those people or knowing people who can help you in the direction of finding the people. So that I think you read my mind when when you said that too.
Yeah.
And I think Ron, or maybe it was Lourdes,
It was
one
Lourdes,
of
I
you
think,
had
yeah.
a comment about remote viewing that I saw in the chat. I can't find it now, but
yeah, it's Lourdes. If you have the ability to remote view, I don't believe there is a boundary. If
And
there's
I
a
think-
boundary with a medium, they're creating the boundary themselves, my opinion. That's Lourdes.
I think
Yes.
it's a process.
Well, that would
Anytime
even
I would
make
do
it,
any
yeah.
sort of remote viewing or even going in person. There was one time I was with Ron and Lourdes at the Hoover House, and they were using their equipment. And I always, I'm sure Kimm does too, like has a routine and a ritual for ourselves about energy protection. And I encourage anybody to do that, who's sensitive every day, just dealing with the world, or who's an investigator or whatever, by whatever means. But I think it is a ritual, and it's kind of just how I set myself up to be able to designate that energy for that purpose at that time, and still retain my own human energy that I can go home and do laundry and, work a human job. So I think it's like you have to kind of have that boundary. What'd you say, Kimm?
I said, the human things. I know.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you how do you ground yourself after you do an investigation or you do a reading? You ground yourself after that?
Well, anybody who's investigated with me in the chat may laugh at this one because they know I don't sleep where I investigate. Like, period, the end. Like, if it's a haunted location, it takes me a lot. I have done it. I don't like doing it. I like to create the boundary of I am leaving this space. I do what, I talk with the kids at the teen camp about a dry bath. So I literally wipe off the energy when I leave a place for my whole self. And I create that separation. I keep some crystals and sage in my vehicle, not for any reason. I don't light it. It's just there. It's a boundary. It's just, I cleanse my equipment, which again, Flip would laugh at me, but I always am on him about that. Because your equipment is loaded with batteries, literally, that you're taking from place to place to place. And so there's so many things that I just try to separate, create that boundary. And then as far as grounding, it's, I don't care if it's like 3 a.m. It's usually a thorough shower, change of clothes completely if I can't do that.
Wow.
And then eating nutrition for people who investigate. Like, I survive on iced coffees and stuff to stay up all night, but like afterward, you got to pump the water, you got to eat a balanced meal, like all the things you have to care for your human body, even if you don't consider yourself sensitive. It's not, it's good for you. You have to restore that stuff. And I think that's very grounding to be able to do that. But nutrition
is a lot of water during the investigation. I know when I go in, if I'm seeing something, because I do the spirit art. So if I'm seeing something, my mouth gets dry. So I always bring something liquid to drink. During the investigation, I always try to have water or whatever we could.
I didn't either. I think that's great. And do you also focus on your nutrition before an investigation? Because I do that.
Yeah, I try to do that.
I work up to it.
Yeah. Especially like the day, I like to eat earlier in the day. I like to eat a balanced meal earlier in the day, and then eat something that's kind of like just to carry me over throughout the time. I like to eat light when I'm at a place. But one of the things I do talk to the teens about, and that I find is very interesting, is that if you can stimulate some of your senses, it will help ground you in the moment at the time. So like the kids, I make them these little goodie bags, like when they go to teen camp, and I put in some things that they might enjoy and can work with, little bells,
Oh, nice.
like ping pong balls that I teach them how to use for different things and that kind of thing. But anyhow, one of the things I put in there is like a little pack of mints, and mints will stimulate, of course, your taste and smell. You're holding them. They may feel differently in your hand. And I talk to them about bringing themselves back to that moment if they're feeling overwhelmed, or if they're feeling like, wow, this is too much energy in here, it's too dark in here, whatever, taking a break, stepping outside, doing those couple of things. But that little bit of like tricking your brain, but not really tricking your brain, allows you to come back to the moment faster and calm yourself if something feels too much. And for kids who are just learning about their energy and how that feels, I think, that's important. But it's also important if you're somebody that you find that, especially people who get nauseous in locations or get headaches in locations, like that's how they're feeling it. Like you have to care for your nutrition in that way. But foods and things like that kind of trick your brain a little bit with multiple senses help to bring you back sooner and ground you in the moment. So for what
that's a good idea. I never even thought of that.
That's so funny. I carry a tin of peppermints.
Yeah.
I do in my bag. I carry a tin of peppermints without even realizing it. It's a little Ouija board. It's a little Ouija board case.
Yeah.
And I found that it's a Halloween thing. But I love them during investigations. I think for me it's focus. Like I like chewing on them. Like I focus on, like you said, it's the taste, it's the smell. Yeah. It helps me focus. Yeah. So I guess I didn't even know I was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also kind of tunes out other things, because I know, like, again, my best friend who goes with me, she doesn't consider herself sensitive. She is, but much like people who she doesn't think she is. But one of the things that gets to her is scent. So like she'll go into a place and she's like, oh, this smells so that she's just clairsentient in that way. Like, and so I encourage pumping the mints or whatever it is of that, sometimes she'll take really fruity gummy bears, something that overstimulates her palate, because it helps calm the sense of what she's experiencing and therefore calming her brain about the whole experience. And she can stay in a location longer. So it's funny because I think there's such that, like, people want to make that science connection and like to our, from our plane to there. But I think a lot of times in caring for our human bodies, we end up making that connection a whole lot smoother and easier without necessarily trying. But to me, I think those particular little things, especially like nutrition or little, food things, I think are really, really helpful. But we all survive on iced coffees and energy drinks the whole time. It's, whether or not
Red Bulls the whole night.
Wait. Cannoli.
I got my wings.
Cannoli. He eats a lot of cannoli.
Yeah, that's also too. Cannolis and Red Bulls. That gets us through the night.
That's basically it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have like a whole emergency food bag of I use a lot of meat after. Like for me, it's just very, very grounding. As much meat as I can get. So like a lot of actually beef or turkey, like those what are they? The little bars, the little jerky sticks kind of things. Like some of those I can carry those in my bag, or like something really bland, like saltines or something. But I totally get the sense too. Like my nose sense can be very, very intense at some of these locations. But so I actually don't have a very elaborate cleansing or grounding ritual other than the food. The food is really the most important one for me. But I'd be interested to hear for the dreams, because I don't tend to, that's not true. I have absolutely stayed at haunted locations for sure. And, but for me, and I'd be curious to hear about this for you, Kelly, is usually we have like booked events, right? Like we're going to this investigation, and often they're booked weeks in advance, months in advance. And I actually, a few days, usually before an event or wherever we're going to investigate, I'll sometimes have spirit showing up in my dreams for these locations that I'm going to. And they'll come in with like information about the place and stuff like that. So I'd be curious if that's one of the reasons why you don't stay, or if that also happens to you too.
Yeah, I that's kind of in that little remote part that I do. If I'm like, I need to know about what kind of energy, like, does anybody have anything that they can relay to me ahead of time? Again, putting boundaries on that, because I don't want to have, a random spirit from the haunted hotel, hospital, jail that I'm going to follow me around for several days until I get there. So like, there's like a boundary, but it's more in that picture, that information. I'm never worried about bringing anything home with me. I am very comfortable in what I've done for so long. And I really just feel very confident in that about myself and the strict boundary that I keep. But I do that. And I do sense that as far as like going to a place and like you were saying, kind of taking some of that time to acclimate myself. And like, now that I'm here, can you show me when I'm here some of the things that you like you were saying, maybe particular rooms or particular areas that like, okay, now this vision's making sense. Before I just saw it as a picture, but now I'm seeing it like, okay, they're talking about over there or behind that wall. And then you can kind of compare. But yeah, I think, you know, seeing that.
Have you been to White Hill Mansion?
I have.
You been? Okay, so I had a dream before of White Hill Mansion, and they showed me 3 steps in the attic. And I was like, why are there 3 steps in the attic? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. But they were showing me the 3 steps into the attic and that would be a very active place. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff that went on, dates, a drama with the neighbor and the plot land and all that stuff, which is all true. I found out all of that's true since then. But yeah, it's so cool. Like when you actually go there and you're like, oh my God. Well, I think it's like maybe 2 steps in the attic or something like that. But yeah, there's like 2 or 3 steps at White Hill. So yeah, super fun.
Yeah, that's the going to that room, isn't it? That like hidden room?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a very active room. A lot of stuff coming in and out. Yeah,
and it's amazing how that place, I've been there, and that's a really beautiful place. And I've been there quite a bit, but it's amazing to me each time. And this is just kind of a tell to anyone who investigates. Each time you go to a location, not only can you experience different things, but the energy of the place can feel extremely different. And that's a place to me that each time I go there, the energy feels completely different. It's either more intense in a certain place, more interaction of a certain type, more avoidant at certain areas, certain parts of the property. And I really think it has to do with, just like I would say about any location, the people that are in there, the people that investigate, the intention which people investigate, the type of equipment, the type of communication. And you don't know that of anybody else who came before you. You just know about your group that you're going with, you know? And so I think, you know, it's such a tangible thing for those who feel in any way, or even if you don't, you can kind of go in and be like, this place seems darker in here than it did before, or vice versa. But that place to me, each time I go, as a whole, the energy feels so different each time. So if anybody's sensitive to that, check that place out for sure.
Oh, you're right. With a lot of locations we've been to and stuff, locations I've been to years ago, and now you go there now, and so much. As I find out as they get more popular and it's becoming more investigators, you're right with that. More investigators, people dropping haunted items off these locations. The energy in these locations do change. And what you had before, it's like, wow, it's you walk in now, it's like, what happened? You know, I know what I had 10 years ago. Now you're coming in, it's like different, it's like a different location, different place to investigate, and you're getting different evidence and you're getting different things. So you're right on that. You know,
and it can impact you differently too. One of the last times I was at White Hill, I went with a group, and I'm not sure if any of you know Chris Mendes, but he
I know Chris, a good friend of him.
Yeah. Well, I went with him and a couple of his friends. We went, who were very new to paranormal investigation, along with Nancy Davis, another very, very sweet and talented psychic medium. If you haven't met her, Kimm, she's wonderful too. So we all went to White Hill, and it was funny because I had been there quite a few times. So had Chris, and so we were done.
In fact, I've been there with Chris also.
Well, yeah. So we were done. There was a certain part of that location that I said, and Chris and I investigated together a lot. So I looked at him and I was like, I'm tired, dude. He's like, yeah, me too. I said, I think we're meant to, and everyone else was just really fading. And again, with nutrition, with rest, there wasn't any reason why I would feel that way other than energetically. And it was everybody. And I said, you know, I think we're meant to kind of skip that particular part. And every time we had tried to get to that area of that particular floor, something came up. Somebody had to take a break. Somebody, something happened with equipment. We just felt, like, oh, let's do another place first. And we kind of just naturally avoided that whole area. So at the end of the night, he said, oh, do we want to go back and do that? And I said, I'm just so tired. Like, I really feel like we're not meant to do that tonight. And you can feel the energy shift in the air, because I'm big, like, if you prod and poke something too much, eventually you get something you do not want. So like the energy kind of was shifting a little bit. And I'm like, I'm content skipping that this time, because me too. So we skipped part of a particular floor that last time because it felt so different. And I even said to Dawn, I said, afterward, I said, did you have people in there? Because it felt weird. The vibe was off from the last time. And she said that particular area, she said, I didn't want to go in and turn off the lights and close up the other night by myself, because we had a group in there before, and whatever they did made me very, like, going in there, it felt very uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, so this makes sense. So we didn't talk to her until after we were done, but it's just like evidence, like she's in there all the time and she felt
all
different.
the time. Yeah.
So, I mean, I really just, like, everybody who investigates, like, honor yourselves and, like, watch your teammates and the people you go with, because our human bodies give us clues. And, sometimes when we push too hard, like I said, we end up with things or dealing with things that we didn't set out to do or deal with.
You ever find out, like, if you go into an investigation, I know you have to go in and you try to be happy, or, if you go in with a negative attitude, you're going to get negative things.
Yeah.
If you go more positive, okay, you're going to get negative, but you're going to get a lot of more. I find that when you go in with a more positive attitude, you get more evidence than with a negative attitude.
No, I agree with that.
And, because a lot of times, we human lives, like you said, it's like, you don't know what's happening before, and you might have an argument or something. Then you go into an investigation, and then you're like, your energy is negative. So it's
you're
like
vulnerable, I think.
Yeah. So you're more vulnerable. So you try to go in there with the most positive attitude on anything, investigations, or because you'll get a different type of evidence out of it if you get evidence. Not everywhere is haunted. I mean, you go to White Hill, you're going to get haunted. But not everywhere is haunted like everybody thinks, because the orb flies in the air, But,
sure. And
I think
I agree with you. Certain places are different with the time. Like, sometimes you can go somewhere, like there's a location I'm thinking of in New Jersey where I went there one time and I was like, this place is supposedly haunted. Like, what are they even talking about? And then the next time you go, you're like, oh my God, it's off the chart. Yeah. I mean, it can be that different. It can be like you feel nothing happens. You're there for 6 hours. You may as well be in your living room, kind of thing. But the next time you go, it's like voices and things getting thrown and things. You're right. You have to hit it just right.
Yeah. And there it again is like all spirit communication too. And I think like our again, I don't ever tell anyone what to believe. So this is just from my interaction with spirit. But I believe too, because of the sort of boundaries and routine that I do before I investigate, I believe I have kind of a spirit team with me as I'm entering these places, a protective bubble, if you will. And so I think sometimes the protective bubble / spirit team / guide / whatever you want to call it, go, okay, you've had enough of this in here tonight, or this energy is shifting. We're feeling it for you. You're done. And then everything gets quiet. And then people are like, well, I paid $400 and this place is quiet. Well, be thankful, because maybe there was a reason. Maybe somebody in that group would have been extremely impacted by something incredibly negative. And in the meantime, you were just ushered out. Maybe that's the best ending for that evening. And it doesn't mean it's going to be that way every time. But I kind of, again, it's like a reading, but it's an experience of an investigation, going in with an open mind, whatever happens. As long as it's the utmost respect, like Anthony was saying, I totally think that's true. And I also think sometimes those peaceful nights that you can practice your skills and get to know your teammates, and those have purpose too. It's just maybe not the one you thought.
It's a privilege just to be there. I feel like it doesn't matter what happens. It's a privilege to be in these buildings.
Right.
I mean, how lucky are we? That's how I feel. Like if
Really
if
lucky.
nothing's happening, enjoy the building, learn about it, explore it. Like it's wonderful.
Yeah. And in those sorts of places or types of places, the money stays there and helps
Exactly.
them. At
Exactly.
least
That's all I care about.
kind of think about that for the night, Yeah.
Help them out. Yes.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago, I went to Waverly Hills in Kentucky, Waverly Hills Asylum, and it was kind of a bucket list place for me because I just thought, oh man, this is going to be like stellar. This place is huge, and I don't know, have the three of you been?
I have been there. Yeah.
The size, Jennie, like the size of this place, Jennie,
I know.
like going up to it, it's like, it's so just impending, like going up to it is just
imposing.
Amazing. It is. It's very, yes, it's just, and it's hauntingly beautiful and tragic and just silent, and it's just a vibe all its own. And the whole night in there was very peaceful. The night we went, like any other, like, and I know a lot of people experienced different things there and had, different experiences. The whole night we had experiences, but they weren't a lot of the big like shadow play that sometimes people witness there and different things. It was more of a like smaller things happening more frequently for a while, and then it would be quiet for a few hours, and then some more smaller things happen, then be quiet. So a place that's known for that kind of large scale interaction was fairly quiet, but I, like you said, just considered it like an honor to be there. Like this was, I wanted to just walk the place, and then after that, I'm like, well, I definitely have to come back and try this, again another time. But it was very calm. There were a lot of bats. Like I always, like my friends, I'm incredibly short. And my rule for investigating is I'm never first. I'm always in the middle. I'm never first or last. I'm always in the middle. We're walking through these places. But my tall friends, I love it when there's bats. I love it.
Man.
Like,
I got hit.
Bats.
I'm tall.
Yeah.
I'm tall. And I've gotten hit.
I wouldn't do that to you.
I've gotten hit so many times with bats. Like,
because
I'm always the tall one. But Kimm is a veterinarian, so she's always like, "You're all getting rabies, but I'm not."
Oh yeah, I'm like, if you see an animal, let me know, because this is like my one and only superpower here. I am vaccinated. Like I can save you.
I'm vaccinated. She's like, I'm not getting rabies. You guys are. It was so funny.
Oh, you would have liked it, Kimm.
I always get hit. Always get hit with bats. I'm like, oh, why is it me?
This one time at West Virginia State Penitentiary, Moundsville Penitentiary.
I've been there with bats. Yes,
that's a fantastic place with each time intense interaction there. Each time for me, it's a very fascinating place. But the last time I was there, we were coming through, and I was asked to come along with the team who were coming through. And one of the people in the team like stops me, and he puts his arm out and he like shines his flashlight around. He's like, "Did you hear that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I don't know what that is." I can't say his name. He'd be embarrassed. And I was like, I'll tell you what it is. He goes, "What do you think it is?" I was like, "It's a raccoon is what it is." And he's like, no, it's not a raccoon. We're in, no, it's not in here. We're in here. Like there's walls and we're in the hallways. And I was like, "It's a raccoon.
Come on.
Central Pennsylvania, it's a raccoon." And he's like, no, it's not a raccoon. And I'm like, let's just look around a little bit. And he's like shining his flashlight. There is this baby raccoon clinging to the wall on the outside of West Virginia State Penitentiary. And I was like, I feel so bad for that thing. I don't know how it miraculously appeared. There were no windows there. I don't know how but it was clinging for dear life. And I was like, okay, let's just, let's keep going. Mom will come get it, or it will find its way out, but like it was too hard to help it. So, but it was funny because I will never let him live that down. Like, "Do you reckon it's on your next investigation?" And he's like, "Kelly, you're not even funny." And it was
Don't you watch horror movies? It's always the cat.
Right.
With the bats, I learned on it with the bats that they can interfere with your cameras.
Yes.
And I was at Burlington Prison, and I had my DVR cameras all over the place. I had down there the CC camera, and I just heard like clicking. I'm like, what the? And all of a sudden it went, and the soldier, I'm like, what was that? And then later on, I seen, because you got it's a dark area, but you got the light on, got the night vision, and you see the bats flying around. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize, because they got that, how they fly with the clicking and everything. It actually made my camera like, the lines to it. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. And that's good to learn, because as investigators, everything you're trying to get, and you're trying to debunk everything you got, and something like that, it's like something you know now, and you can pass on to other people too. But
that's right.
It's interesting because people see that and they go, "Oh, the ghosts are interfering." No, it's a bat. Sometimes, that's another thing. When we're out there, people don't realize that it could be just nature. From we were up in Newburgh, upstate New York, and we were hearing a baby crying. So we got this baby crying, and then I looked up there. There's red foxes up there, and the female, when they're in heat, they sound like babies crying. And this place has red foxes all over the place. So not everything is paranormal. It could be nature, natural, that's interfering, animal-wise, or just a lightning storm, whatever. But not everything is haunted, and not everything is evidence. That's one thing. That's a lot of people have to learn nowadays. That's why I like when you get the SS group, that you could teach them that, But everybody now, it's like, oh, like I said before, an orb in the air or something, and it's like,
it's a demon.
And everything's a demon. I love that. But people want ratings and stuff. That's why they say the word demon.
Of course.
But
I've sent Kimm
people out there have to learn to debunk things, or just to see it's a natural thing. Not everything is paranormal.
And even
I like to think that
outside. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. I like to think that little raccoon was like, "Oh my God, thank God you're here. Did you see that chair move?" He's like, "Get me out of here." He's like,
"The story is
you see that shadow on the wall?
Did you see that?" Anyway,
I've been cooking on that. It's only you.
The raccoon on the wall goes, "Oh, it's just you. You scared me. I thought it was a ghost."
I mean, it was so cute. Yeah. It was so cute. But yeah, I think too, with the if you're going outside and taking pictures, just a heat signature of things. I mean, I've seen heat signatures of like, okay, you're walking through the woods and you step in a little mouse scurries or a bunny. That flash also looks suspicious, but I just joke that like for seeing dead people, I'm one of the most analytical investigators you're ever going to meet, because I'm going to be like, oh no, that's this, that's this, because you have to think that way. And as humans, we try to calm ourselves by thinking that way anyhow. But I think with the technology and like the sensitivity of the technology, it's just amazing, because you kind of, it allows you to see beyond, of course, what you can normally see as a human, and then you do wonder. So that is good, but I think we have to know how to use the equipment too. I think sometimes people get equipment and
you go open-minded.
Yeah,
and you go open-minded with no, everything's haunted. No, going open-minded. You learn your equipment and you try to have a control area, so have no effects from outside. Contamination. So that's control areas. It's very important, and it's not science, but it's something that we learn as investigation. And I guess it has to take time for you to learn it, going through the years of experience.
Right.
Because there's a lot of new people out there. Everything is haunted. Everything. You hear a light goes on on a piece of equipment or something. The bells or whistles. And everyone, it's no. Just look at that. Even if you get an EVP, something like that, we try to find. It's like
It's Anthony's stomach.
Yeah.
Growling.
Yeah.
It's Anthony's stomach.
Give him some cannoli.
You hear that squeaking? It's Anthony's thinking. It's the wheels going around his head.
Jenny, you raise a very valid point, because I don't know how many people, Jenny, want to go for Mexican food before they investigate. I'm here to tell you it's always a bad idea. It doesn't matter if you it doesn't matter if it sits well. It doesn't matter. Your stomach's going to growl every single time. So just avoid it.
As long as the stomach growls and it doesn't growl out anywhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just
the
get
after
a
effect.
piece of
Now
pizza,
just
like a
let it growl,
normal.
not the backfires. You know, I mean, I've been in an investigation. I mean, it was one time we were in Gettysburg, and it was me, my brother, and son, and we didn't have much money, so we ate all the fast food, White Castle,
Taco
and
Bell.
Pizza Hut, and what else? We had another one, Pizza Hut,
God,
and there was
disaster.
maybe Taco Bell, but we had that all one night. At nighttime, we got different types of EVPs. Ones are like,
I bet.
what the? Gerard, what'd you do? Oh, you know, it's like my brother, or my son, and it's like all of us. It was like, growling stomachs and other type of growling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
that's not a demon or a portal that you picked up there. No,
No, it becomes a ghost hunt to a smell hunt. You know,
not quite.
We just lost the show again, didn't we?
Yep.
It's a very real
Off
thing.
The rails.
Yeah, it's a very real thing.
Problem.
I have a question for all of you. What has been your most impactful personal experience while investigating? I have to keep it specific. So while investigating, what's been the most impactful, good or bad, really? But
I'll start. This is a bit of an emotional story, but it is extremely impactful because it goes back to the degree of communication that can happen. So there's a place in my town. I have a river in front of my house, and there's a bit of a gorge. It's a river gorge. It's beautiful. So I like to investigate locations, places, for whatever reason. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just like it. So I'm doing an investigation there. My husband's videoing me. It's on YouTube at this point, but he's just videoing me. I'm just reading the place. Spirits are coming to me. And a young boy comes to me and he tells me he died there. He tells me how he died, the whole thing. And I said, we're communicating. And I said, okay, is there any message? Why are you coming forward to talk to me today? And he said, there needs to be a barrier. There needs to be a better barrier. And I was like, which is true. There does need to be a better barrier. And then 2 weeks later, a young boy and his mother drowned in the same area. And I couldn't believe it because I don't know if I was drawn to go read that place at that time to get that message, to try and do something in the meantime to get a barrier up in this area where that wouldn't have happened. But that was deeply impactful. It led me to reach out to my local town. I went to town meetings to try and communicate having better barriers. And they have something now. So they do have something now. So hopefully it won't happen again. But that was deeply impactful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
gosh. I mean, as mediums,
we'll bring it
how much
to the other side, but the second you said that,
like,
Kelly, I was like, this was the most deeply impactful I could.
I mean, how much responsibility do you feel as a medium?
I felt pretty responsible.
Yeah, but you're not. You know that, right?
Right. You're not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I had no idea that
but
happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's very valid too with when it comes to how we not only how we internalize things, but almost like I compare an experience like that with like a deja vu experience, even though you were reading, so it's different in that aspect. But deja vu is, I believe, from my experience with spirit, serving two main purposes. One is to validate that you're exactly on your timeline at that very moment, exactly where you're meant to be. So it feels familiar because you've arranged it to be so. And two, if you are a person who leads with their emotion, which in that moment you were connecting emotionally with that boy, when you're leading with that emotion, it sends the same stress signals to your brain when you have that as a deja vu experience or during your reading experience, so that when that actually happens, when that event actually happens, there's a small part of your brain, because it's already been tripped, you already knew. So you may have heard that news when you were in the middle of doing something, and it would have made you really emotional or upset. And this time you were communicating, so you had it that way. Or if someone has a deja vu experience, you've already had that same stress signal tripped, so you can look at it from a different perspective when the moment actually happens. So perhaps this was like your catalyst to motivate you to move forward in that their passing, that has nothing to do with you. But I understand, like I said, we don't always like what we see, for sure. But that could have been his way of communicating with you, and you feeling that familiar experience as, I now need to take steps of this, because this is exactly the validation of what he was saying was happening. So I understand that.
I totally get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. But actually, the young boy I was communicating with who passed was another spirit who died there. Yeah. And he gave me the dates he died. So it was like this young boy who had already died there in 1996. That was like seeing something. Yeah, it's the time of it is so interesting. But yeah, I agree. Absolutely, Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, 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 I mean, I'm sorry you had to have that experience, but what a very validating experience for that spirit to have been able to feel comfortable to share that with you and know that you will take the steps to move forward with that.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful too.
Yeah. And right. Yeah. And as we are mediums communicating, I mean, we are communicating with spirit, and often there's messages of why they're still there. And there is a bit of sometimes a responsibility, even in investigators, sometimes we're just like, we just want experiences. We just want, the flashing lights and stuff like that. And, I always say this, like every phenomena is a spirit. There's a person behind every phenomena that we're seeing. So it is more meaningful. And I think we're getting to that state now where it's more, like kindred spirits, things like that. We're getting more to kind of that, like, it's a person kind of idea.
Right. It's not a K2 meter. It's a person. Right.
Yeah. So
it's
my
so
experience I was 13 years old when I first see my first full body apparition. And I was with a group of my friends. We're walking back, and where I lived in Glendale, they know, it's surrounded by 9 cemeteries. And so when you go out of the town, you go to the next town, you cut through cemeteries. So we're coming back, and I see my first full body apparition sitting. She was actually praying over graves, which I found out later were children graves. They all died during 1918 during the flu, influenza, whatever they had that then. And it freaked me out. So I went home and I had a dream that I had to go back to the cemetery that night. Not that night, but the following night. And I went back. I told some friends I went back with them. And there's an old church that used to sit up on the hill in the cemetery. And that's where I had to go. That's where the dream told me to go. Because the dream kept on saying, come back. And so I'm 13. So, this is my first full body I seen. I have a dream to go back. I experienced things as a younger going up, but this is like, and my friends at the time, like, I told two of my friends, some of my friends thought I was nuts. It was during the 70s, so they thought I was on drugs and everything else, And yeah, So we went back and we went up to the hill, and I'm walking up the hill. It's like a little dirt road going up to where this church was. And I had an image of the two people with me. They were behind me, following me up the hill to stop. You guys stop right there. And they go, no, we're not going to let you go by yourself. A tree branch fell between us. It came out of the tree and fell right between us. They said, okay, you're on your own. They ran away and they left me. So I walk up, and there was an old church there that burned down a couple of years before that. And it was just the frame of it and, just a little bit, it's the ruins of a church. So I go and I went into the middle of the church, and I felt cold hands like touch my back and start pushing me. I'm getting freaked out. So I'm going with the push. pushed me over to and it would push me over to where these graves were, and it stopped, and the name Mary was on the grave. So I see Mary, and it says, at this time now, I'm by myself in the cemetery at nighttime, and I start freaking out. I start running. I start running back, trying to get out of there, and I end up, a couple times I start running and I stop because I'm out of breath. I see the grave, and I see the same grave, and I just ran again. I got my friends found me, and then we left. But um, after that, that's what really got me into investigating, because that's when I used to sneak into the cemetery by myself at nighttime. Because in the 70s, you couldn't talk about it. You were a weird person and everything else. So I used to go in the cemeteries at nighttime. And like I said, we used to bend down. I had those wire hangers. I used to make them to dowsing rods. I was in, we didn't have much money in my family. So I'm bending
That's
these
awesome.
rods. I had this 35 millimeter camera that weighed like 90 pounds with a big light on it, and a compass, a Boy Scout compass. That was my first. And I don't think I got anything, but I felt things. I started seeing things more, and things started coming to me more. And so that's when I started going cemetery by myself, and I started going to places and trying to find things on my own. So that's why I consider I started when I was 13 years old. But that's what changed me to investigate, and I was like, I wanted to find out, why am I seeing these things? Am I really crazy? And I had people, friends and stuff like think I was crazy, and they didn't want to talk to me no more, whatever. And I also lived in a very religious neighborhood, and a lot of people turned their backs on me, and they were looking for the devil and all that stuff. So I didn't talk about it for a long time until I got back into like really. I started my team in 1996 because I started seeing Shadowlands. It was what do you call it? A page that was on the computer. I just first got my computer in 1996. So the first thing I did was I type in ghost, and then I started. That's when Shadowland come on, and I started seeing people actually looking for ghosts and stuff like that. This is pretty cool, And I did it all the time by myself. So I started my team in 1996, Six Club of the Paranormal, and like they know, there's only three of us on the team: me, myself, and I. Nobody wanted to do anything with me, so I do stuff by myself. And then, I just, I didn't, like 2000. It was 2004 when when the shows came out, and everybody all of a sudden everybody bought a K2 and they were ghost hunters. That was it. I'm a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
Everybody became a ghost hunter, and that's when people started getting on my. I started bringing people on the team and everything, and I'm still doing it to this day, investigating. But it was that moment where I seen that first full body apparition, and I had to go back to that cemetery and have that experience to actually, to this day, I'm still doing it. You're still looking for answers and still trying to see why'd you come to me. But there was a reason, because now look what I'm doing now. So I feel that was most important time in any of my investigation. Well, it wasn't even an investigation back then, but it's, just experiences. But yeah, it was that's what changed me to doing all this. So that's my story, and we're gonna stick to it, Jenny.
I don't know how I'm going to follow those two. I mean, she's got this poor,
I know Kimm had a great. I thought going after Kimm. I was like,
oh
wow.
And I'm not a medium or a sensitive, and I am that person with the K2 meter. No, but no. So for me, I like when you have people actually there, and because you must feel this feeling, right? That you can connect to something happening at the location. And Kimm and Anthony have been with me when we've done this. For example, we investigated a small theater near me. And people there that were there were like 100 years old. And we were trying to communicate with people they knew. So when we had voices on the recorder, we could say, hey, does this sound like Gary to you?
Sounds.
Kind of thing. See, I can't bridge that gap like you guys
Yeah,
can.
that was cool.
So when I can, using equipment, they're like, oh my gosh, that's Joe, the librarian. I used to work with him, kind of thing. That to me is like so rewarding. I love that because I can't do what you do. So I have to use equipment to do it. And as they know, I'm very into the voices. I'm very much a voice person and investigating. I love my recorders. I love my voices. So I love when people light up when they hear that voice again. They're like, I know that person. It's George, the librarian. He used to work here. And what that must be like to hear his voice again live. It's mind blowing. I love that connection. And the other thing I'd say is on private investigations, like I love when they think it's this horrible man ghost who's terrorizing the family, and then you're like, it's actually grandma. It's grandma. Sort of thing. I love that when you can, when you can turn that around for someone who's terrified of the ghost in their house, and then they're like, does this sound like your mom? Yeah, that's my mom. Kind of thing. I love that. That's like, I got you the right answer.
Right, making those connections. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Exactly.
Flip wouldn't mind me sharing the story of his, but how amazing and talented he is with ITC work. So Flip does a lot of, he's just fantastic when it comes to that sort of work. And he absolutely, one of the places that he raves about and we've investigated is the Shanley Hotel, of course, close to, not too far from all of you. So we were there several times. One time we all went as a group and he got some recordings, and then he had gone again and replayed some of the recordings from the other time that he'd gone, and he was friends with Sal, the man who ran the Shanley Hotel before he had passed. And actually captured his voice on audio and shared it with the new owners and who also knew him, and they were like, oh my gosh, his voice, so that communication that you do is so validating and creates those connections, and spirit knows what they can say that's going to be like, this is definitely this person.
Right.
Oh, Chris. Yeah. Okay.
So true.
You can tell him that, Chris. But it's just so fascinating. And even if it's not the same tone of voice, because again, it can be, but it's particular words or particular clues or intonation or pauses. And again, in relaying the way that it comes through, sometimes I'll say to clients too, like, I don't know why they're choosing these words or pausing over this at this point. And then it makes good sense to that person who is there. And that's who it's about. So, it's really neat for those connections when they can be made, and that validation of that communication. Yeah.
So with Flip, when we were there with Flip at one time, and he was asking, that's when Kelly first took over, and was Sal's room. He had his little apartment upstairs. That's before Kelly moved in and everything. And it was in there with me, Flip. I think my brother was there. Ron and Lourdes were there also.
I think they were there that time too. Yeah.
And he asks, and he goes, Sal, if you're here, what did you call everybody? And it came out that way with his because he had a raspy voice. The guy smoked cigarette after cigarette. So he goes, family. And Flip was like, we all like, oh, real. That sounded like him, because I knew Sal also. And, it was like, wow, it was like a little tear jerking moment because, it was you could hear it was his voice because he had that raspy type of voice. Family. So, it was
or Anthony, I thought you were going to say about in Burlington Prison when we had your friend Joe. White
Joe.
Castle.
I have a friend that passed. He was on my team. He was my right hand.
Oh, so good. This was so good.
It's killing me. Matter of fact, on the these are his bands. He passed away. Matter of fact, in March it was 4 years. Okay. But he had a bad heart. He had heart transplant and stuff like that. And what happened was he him and I were talking, and he was like, if either one of us go, we got to contact each other. We'll come and so I said, yeah, let's have a code word and stuff like that. And we came up with the word. Well, this was our favorite thing, White Castles.
White Castle.
It was a phrase. So
Castle.
it wasn't like, it's not like, that wasn't a one word thing. It was like 2 words. So it definitely pertains to us.
Yeah.
And it ended up that we're in Burlington Prison, and we're doing
Ron and Lourdes were
the Ron Lourdes,
running the PDSA.
the seance, the digital seance, and we're running that. And Ron knows because he came through also at Penhurst. Joe came through. So Ron asked, he goes,
Joe, if you're here.
I thought if it was
You
Ron
said,
or
Joe,
me.
I
said, Joe, you're here.
Joe, if you're here.
What's our code word? What's our word? And White Castle came up.
Like White Castle, so clear. And Ron
came
goes,
out
on
the
Ron's
digital seance.
Ron, I know he's watching.
He's like,
turned white.
Oh,
Like he was like, oh my God.
right out.
White Castle, like right
Amazing.
away.
And I knew it was Joe because I said Joe. And I said something else. And he goes, F you. I said, that's Joe.
Yeah.
That's
that's my guy.
So
that's
profound.
it. That's Joe because
profound.
that's what we do is curse at each other and eat food and investigate.
It was really good. It was good. That was a good one.
Yeah. That was he came through White Castle. And White like I said, White Castle is a word that you would hear. No, even on the radio, if you hear it, they don't. I haven't heard a White Castle commercial in years.
No.
Radio, or even on TV, for that matter.
No.
So
it was so clear.
So that's something awesome. He came through in Penhurst also, with White Castle, and also he came through Knickerbocker Hotel in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
That one also he came through. Yeah, so it's pretty cool when he comes through and he says that,
I love that.
And like I said, Ron and Lourdes who he is, and they know that when it comes through, it's like, wow, it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's a good one.
That is wow, great validation from him for you.
Yeah. It comes through, and
So Kelly, do you have one?
What's yours?
Of course.
You must have a million. You must
right?
have a million.
I was sitting here thinking because I was like, I hope they don't spin my own question back on me because I don't know how I'm going to get one.
Your own.
But
You're on the spot.
Okay. Well, I think my experience, there are so many poignant for so many different reasons. But one of the top ones that I think impacted me a lot wasn't even through an investigation. It was when I was teaching school. And again, I kept very separately my business life, metaphysical life to school life. And I had a student in my class who was, she was a little girl that would spin helicopter circles around the classroom most of the day, like just arms out, whirligig style, like off in her own little land. And so there were some issues that came out of that, attention and different things that really made it tricky for her to focus on any task at any time. And so 3/4 of the way through the school year, she flittered into the room and flittered up to my desk. And she said, I made you something. And I said, okay, like I'm impressed. Any task got done. I'm like, oh, awesome. Yeah. What did you make? She lays this photo or this drawing on my desk, which perhaps was the best photo. I mean, it was the best photo by far, or picture by far I had seen her make all year long. So it was this picture of, again, I would draw my house a certain way for the kids. So when I would draw on the whiteboard or chalkboard, I would draw it a particular way. So I'm like, here's my house with my green roof. Here's Lincoln. He is my dog with pointy ears. Here's Maggie. She's my dog with floppy ears. Here's the kitties. So I draw them the same way. So in her picture, she had all of that stuff. She's like, here's your house with the green roof. Here's Lincoln with his pointy ears. Here's Maggie with her floppy ears. And here are the beings that live with you. And I said, oh, again, I'm like playing stupid.
Beings.
She goes,
said that
yes.
word.
Tell me more.
She said the word beings. She goes, here are the beings that live with you. And I said, okay.
Wow.
And she goes, do you see how they're floating up in the air? Do you see how they have bubbles of light on their heads? Do you see how they're floating towards the sky? And again, me playing stupid, keeping this separate from school. I said,
Of course.
oh, are they nice beings? And with the attitude that only she could produce, she put her hands on her hips and she looked at me and she said, well, yeah, you talk to them. And I said, oh, okay, well, like, are they
those
happy?
beings.
Oh, those beings. Yeah, Jennie, yeah, that. And I said, oh, so are they happy? And she goes, well, yeah, like, yeah. I said, well, am I sharing what they're actually saying? And she said, yes, Miss Miller. Like, she was like, come on, like, I should know this by now. And then she kept telling me details of the photo, of the picture that she drew. I say photo because it was so realistic for her. So it was like, you know, she put lights around their heads, and I said, now, are they always at my house with me? And she goes, well, not always. And sometimes they're different if you're around other people. Like, she had already heard all this stuff
Wow.
in her meditation, apparently. Yeah. And then she comes in and she shares this with me. And she put the most time and effort into not only her picture, but the explanation. And then she focused on our conversation for probably darn near 8 minutes about what she drew and me asking pretend stupid questions about these beings. And then she like flittered off for the rest of the day and then did helicopters as per usual. It was this like divine moment of like whatever her willingness to produce this picture for me.
Wow.
Shared with me, and I thought to myself, I'm doing the right thing. Like, I thought this is what I'm meant to do. You know, it's teaching, whether it's in the classroom or a different way, but I was very thankful because it was just such an impactful moment. It didn't even come from an investigation. It was just like, this is your path. Like, and it means a lot that, you know, the kids were so comfortable about sharing. Yeah, I was impressed too, Mary Beth. I didn't think she would ever, like, she just focused so hard on this. And I actually took a picture of the paper. I kept the paper somewhere, but I wanted to make sure I had a copy. So I took a picture of it with my phone, and I still have it on my phone because it's just a moment that to me, I won't forget, because those you know, kids don't have the filter that adults have. And so I know that she's relaying to me exactly whatever came to her. And I was very thankful for that. So it kind of was very validating and impactful to me in a different way, but only on the edge of the paranormal, I guess.
That's awesome.
Okay, you find everybody there.
Yeah. You got somebody, you got a child there that's open to it because they're not close to it like a lot of parents, like a lot of adults get because of everything going on in her life, you know. And she was open to it, and she just laid it out for you.
Time would stop.
Yeah. Does she have? Did she ever do anything else like that? Like, does she have the abilities? Like,
I think she definitely. Yeah, I think she was very sensitive. I had some kids that were very sensitive over the course of time. You know, of course, the one right at the last year, you know, seeing things crawl out of her wall. Like, they would tell me about what they would dream. They would talk about how they'd see their grandparents in their room at night. Like, no conversations did I ever start, but they would talk about it. They'd say, you know, about their pet that passed away. And then all of a sudden they saw them laying at the foot of the bed again, but they knew that they had died. And it's all very kid speak, but they had lots of experiences. I had a couple different holistic healing spaces throughout my time before I just kind of transitioned mostly to readings. But there was one client who came, and she'd dropped something off at my space. She literally came in, handed me whatever it was at the time, and left, and got back in the car. And her son had come with her in the car. And she said, "You'll never believe what my son just said to me." And I said, okay, again, hadn't interacted with him. He just came along. She said, "We got in the car and he said, 'Mommy, is that the lady who talks to angels?'" And she said, "I never once told him what I saw you for, what you did. I never once talked anything about it." And she said, "Do you think that that's what, you know, she does?" And he said, "Yeah, she does it good. She does it right," or something like that. And again, it was that validation of like, okay, thanks, universe. Like, I didn't ever have a conversation with that person about that. But kids know, they just know, you know. And there was another little boy who was just like staring at the back of the friend's head that was in front of him in line. And he was just like tilting his head down and he was staring. And I just walked up to him, another little like whirligig in the classroom. And I walked up to him and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm reading his mind." And I said, "Well,
Yes.
I read," he goes, I said, "I read minds too, you know." He goes, "I know, let's go to phys ed." And he was back in it. Like, it was just like it never happened.
Oh my God.
So there were so many like cool moments that was very,
I
very
love it.
And it was like, you know,
I'm
aside,
reading
let
his
alone
mind.
spirit interaction and things, but the kids were they just don't have the filter. And it's so beautiful. And it's beautiful when, you know, their parents are open and ask them questions, because I think that's thankfully a really great side effect of the now time frame versus growing up, you know, before you didn't have as much open-mindedness to those possibilities. But you know, I think the best thing is just to ask questions. Like, if you have a kid that is sensitive in your life, just ask questions. And when they time out, you time out. Don't push. Just they'll come back with more. You know, they'll come back with more.
In Gettysburg, I always have somebody come on the table with kids, and they tell me what they see and everything. And I listen to them, and, you know, and the parents sometimes like rolling their eyes and stuff like that. And I always say, don't dismiss it. Don't dismiss it. Just talk to them about it. And, you know, that's all you could do. You know, you can't take, you know, with the parents, you can't just tell them what to do. Just give a suggestion and, you know, just work with the kid.
And drawing pictures too. You know, drawing is really,
great idea.
Really big, because also a lot of times too, it allows them kind of a focus for that. Sometimes it's through symbols. So sometimes it's through particular shapes or colors or whatnot, until they get a little older, and then maybe it takes some more shape and form. But allowing them to get it out in one way or another, even if they can't vocalize it, you know. Yeah,
that's another question I get, because, you know, I do the spirit art, and that's what I do. I draw the spirits, and they question that too. You know, like you've seen that, and then, you know, that opens it up to them they could do it also if they can, you know, maybe just draw. And so I say, if you see something, I tell them, you know, if you see something, draw it. You know, even if it's like a little stick figure, it's something just to get it out of them. You know, so that's awesome. Yeah, we're coming to the end of the show soon.
I really think that's our natural, normal state.
Yeah, it is.
I think all of this that we experience is actually really available, and we're just shutting it off. But I really think it's all available, and I think that's our natural state. So yeah, beautiful stories.
I believe it's all available also. I believe everybody has a bit of it. You know, everybody has a little bit of you know, you know, mediumship, or it's just like in your mind, some people just shut it off because they're scared of it, or they're just religion that don't believe in it, or they're just ignorant. They don't want to be bothered by it, and they think, oh, why should I? Why, you know?
Right.
Those are the people like they shut down. But sometimes, I know I've been on a job where people make fun of me about doing what I do, and you know, and those are the people with the best stories. They get you by yourself. And a group of people that are making fun of you. But then, because being an electrician in the city, you know, you with groups of people, they're like, and they always make a comment. But then when they're by yourself, you know, my grandfather came to me the night he died.
Right.
And I'm like, and you're making fun of me. But I don't make fun. I just let them, you know, tell me their story. Yeah. But those are the people with the best stories sometimes.
And you open their mind.
Yeah.
You open their mind. Like
exactly.
Hearing, you know, about you and what you do, or the experiences you've had, has allowed them to feel comfortable. And
it gets it off their chest too.
Yeah.
Some people actually say that I feel better now, you know, that somebody's actually listening to me.
Right.
You know, I always try to talk to people. I don't stop talking, you know that. Unless you three are around, then I have to sit there and listen to you guys.
Doesn't. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
So Kelly, how can people find you?
Yeah.
How can they find you and your services?
Put it in the chat.
Shout it out.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, the easiest way currently is through Facebook, the Maven Medium on Facebook, and Instagram. Both of those places, you can send me a direct message. It is only me answering your messages on both of those platforms. It does give other ways to get in touch with me. You can email me if you want, themavenmedium@gmail.com. I have themavenmedium.com as my website, and you can send me a message through that. I'm revamping it currently, so it's kind of minimal, but it is up. So you can send me a message that way too. But any of those platforms, I also am on YouTube, and Keith and I host our show, Talkin' Tech Paranormal. Currently, we're taking a little hiatus due to his health issues and trying to get that worked out first. But you can find Talkin' Tech Paranormal on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, any of the major platforms, but you can search for the Maven Medium pretty much anywhere and you'll get to me. So,
well, I loved tonight so much.
oh,
And
me
I
too,
honestly
friends.
think that I learned so much. And I feel like from now on in our show, we should call it the Kelly question and ask everyone their most impactful experience. I thought that was so wonderful that we should just honor you in our future shows and ask that question.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Really,
Well, I just love hearing about you all too. So I'm so thankful that you'd have me on, and
it went so fast. Oh my gosh, it went so fast.
It did go
too fast.
It went too
we
fast.
Talked all night to you.
Yeah, well, it's a 2-hour mark, so we have to end the show, which I don't want to, but I know we'll get in trouble.
We'll get in trouble.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, and thanks everyone for joining again tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank everybody for showing up and being part of the audience. Thank you, Kelly. I'm so happy that I bumped into you in Hanover and got you actually.
Come on.
And made you come on. You're coming on. You know?
He's like, he did that.
You know, and I mean, we got a couple of good people. We got a bunch of people from Hanover, but yeah, I'm just glad that you came, and I got in touch with you, and here we are. So we got to actually end the show because we're going in overtime, and none of us get paid overtime nowadays. So I just want to thank everybody in the audience, everybody, Kelly, Kimm, and Jennie. Everyone, thank everybody, the whole world, for coming on, watching us. And I just want to tell everybody, you guys want to go on investigations, you got to be safe. You want to look for ghosts. You don't want to be a ghost. Hey, forget about it. Ciao, familia. Good night.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Hey, how you doing?